It's time to place your bets. Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's week 2 already. Can you believe it? And it's time for a look ahead with my good friends, Matthew Freedman and Pat Fitzmaurice. We're going to take a look at the early lines. Still a lot of football to digest, a lot of injuries. It was a busy week 1, I'm sure, as the gentleman will attest to. But we're going to do our best to break it all down for you and see what it means for week 2 in the NFL as we look ahead to some of these early lines on our Consensus Betting Pro site. And if you haven't already, go check out bettingpros.com, where you can bet everywhere you need to get the best lines you need to make the most money. That sounds like a good idea to me. So check it out. We got the prop bet cheat sheet there. We've got incredible betting tools, incredible betting content as well. So make sure, if you haven't already, go to bettingpros.com. And if you're somebody who likes a little bit of extra fun, a little bit of something new, go try something new over on Sleeper. It's the over-under game on Sleeper, and Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy format. And today, with millions of players on it, you probably already have heard of Sleeper, or maybe even have a league on there. I know most of mine, I prefer to be on there. If I can get all of them, I'd be a happy Joe. But right now, I'm just mostly happy. It's a game-changing product over there at Sleeper, and now you can win on Sleeper by playing their new over-under game, and it's super simple. First, in any sport, choose 2 or more players that you like and pick the over-under. For example, rushing yards in football or number of points in basketball. Then choose the amount of money you want to enter in the contest, and if you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 times to 20x your money that you put in. So the main reason I'm excited about the over-under on Sleeper is that it's the only app where I can, invite my friends and play against them. And I know I love to compete. I know you do as well. So check it out right now. It's over at Sleeper. What you're going to do is go to sleeper.app/bettingpros. Again, that's sleeper.app/bettingpros. And when you do, and use that promo code bettingpros over there when you sign up at sleeper.app/bettingpros, put in the code bettingpros, and you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. One more time, that's sleeper.app/bettingpros. Gentlemen, let's kick things off here with Thursday Night Football in a prime matchup, so to speak. To coin a phrase, Jeff Bezos probably created this one in a lab or in his giant bald head. And I can say that because I've got a giant bald head. Kansas City Chiefs, -3.5. They are the favorites in this one. Probably not surprising after Patrick Mahomes' great performance. Matt, what are your thoughts about this early line here with Kansas City being the favorites?
I mean, I hate that it's at 3.5 instead of 3. The look ahead was 3. That's where I grabbed it because I just sort of anticipated that the Chiefs were going to crush given the matchup they had last week. And that's certainly what happened. They look great. Patrick Mahomes was 30 of 39. 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 360 yards passing. It looked effortless for the Chiefs, scoring 44 points, and it feels like they could have scored more. They had the entire offseason to move on from Tyreek Hill and rebuild their offense, and they definitely did that. The Chargers last week, without number 1 cornerback J.C. Jackson, it's uncertain if he's going to return for week 2. So that already gives them a little bit of a disadvantage. I have this closer to 5.5 or 6. Mm-hmm. So I think there's still value betting it at 3.5. And I don't know. I would anticipate that if it moves a direction, it's not going down to 3. If it moves, it's going to move closer to 6. So I still think if you're looking to bet, you would probably bet this now. But I'm just anchoring to the 3 and thinking if you haven't bet it now, maybe you don't bet it, but if you want action on this game, and this feels like the kind of game you do want action on, probably bet it now, and I'm going Chiefs.
Well, you can get the 3 in some spots. BetMGM and DraftKings, as of us recording this, had it at 3. Some other sites had it at 3.5. Pat, with the Keenan Allen injury too, potentially lingering, does this feel like maybe Freedman's on the right track here with maybe this should be a bigger number to start?
Oh, I think so. I initially predicted it as a 5-point game, and I think there's value to betting the Chiefs. I mean, Andy Reid has the deed to the AFC West. He keeps it in the glove compartment of his Ford Bronco, and I don't really know that he drives a Ford Bronco, but it just seems like something that Andy Reid would drive. He owns this division. They're the class of the division, and I think there's a little bit of value here because people want the Chargers to be that upstart darling in this division, to maybe knock off the Chiefs and become the new kings of the division, but I don't know if they're there yet. I mean, they do have an attractive roster. They do have some star power on both sides of the ball. I mean, the Khalil Mack Bosa combo on the edge is just fearsome, but I still think you run up against the Andy Reid play calling, and that's such a big edge for the Chiefs here. So I think there's value. Boy, they're right on it with the total, though. 54.5, and there were 54 points scored in both Chiefs-Chargers games last year.
Yeah, and to follow up on what Fitz said there about Andy Reid owning the division, 33-20 against the spread with the Chiefs against the AFC West. So Andy Reid definitely has owned the division outright and against the spread. And then Andy Reid, there's something about this guy. Like, everyone knows Andy Reid off of a bye, but I don't think it's just Andy Reid off of a bye. It's like Andy Reid off of the offseason. Like the first month of the season, the Chiefs absolutely crushed. They're 24-13 against the spread in weeks 1 through 4 in his time with the Chiefs. And then Patrick Mahomes in prime time, 13-8-1 against the spread. And that's including the postseason.
Yeah, pretty good stats there. Let's go to two teams that are coming off victories in week 1. The Baltimore Ravens, 4-point favorites over Miami, traveling to Baltimore. Fitz, we'll start with you with this one. I know certainly the J.K. Dobbins out yesterday was something that was unfortunate for the Baltimore Ravens offense, but Miami looking pretty solid in their debut against the Patriots. How do you feel about this line here as you're looking at it to begin?
Yeah, I think there's maybe just a little bit of value here with the Ravens. I initially pegged this one as Ravens by 5, and like the Ravens just have their act together early in the season most years. Last year was a little strange because they had the Marcus Peters injury and the Dobbins and Gus Edwards injuries so early, right before the start of the season. I feel like that kind of knocked the organization off its moorings last year, but generally they come out hot, and we saw that again. They handled the Jets very easily in week 1. I think they're going to beat the Dolphins pretty easily, too, and the Dolphins are, probably flying high after that win over the division rival Patriots at home. Now they have to go on the road in a tough environment, so I'm inclined to give the points here.
All right, Matt, same thing to you with Baltimore. Are the Miami Dolphins maybe enjoying a little bit too much of this first victory, and is this going to be a wake-up call in Baltimore?
Yeah, I'm not taking a position on this game. I have it slightly towards the Ravens, but I think 4, the number that we're seeing in the market, is about right. One thing I should say is I think it was surprising that Marcus Peters did not play yesterday, so we need to monitor him. Kyle Fuller, another cornerback for the Ravens, he exited the game with a knee injury. Left tackle Ronnie Stanley didn't play. And then the guy who was filling in for him, their swing tackle, Juwan James, he left the game with a torn Achilles. He's out for the year. And so these are injuries that we need to monitor, and I don't know if they're actually baked into the line yet. So even though I think right now there's a little bit of value on the Ravens, or if I had to bet on it, I'd lean towards the Ravens. I could actually see the line moving towards the Dolphins because of these injury issues.
Joe Flacco had 743 pass attempts in the game, I believe, on Sunday. I think that's a correct stat. I believe that's from NFL.com. The New York Jets still lost. They are 6.5-point dogs in this contest on the road against Cleveland. That feels right, but do we think that is a little too much credit for this Browns team? Your thoughts, Matthew Freedman?
Yeah, I have a little bit of value on the Jets here in terms of how I'm making this line, but I'm not betting it at all because they're just a team I don't want to be invested in. I think organizationally there are a lot of things wrong. The offense under Joe Flacco. I know they had some yards, but it was all sort of trash production.
After 700 pass attempts, I want to say you're going to get some yards.
Yeah,
just the law of averages.
Yeah, so I'm not factoring that into things really at all. So I show slight value on the Jets, but not enough to make me bet on it.
How about you, Pat? Same thing, slight value, but not enough to move the needle.
Exactly it. I might be tempted to play this one. I feel like this line should be smaller, like Jacoby Brissett and Joe Flacco. I know Joe Flacco doesn't get any respect, but he's going up against Jacoby Brissett here. Is it that people in the setting of the lines, there's that much more respect for Kevin Stefanski than for Saleh? I don't really understand this line. It seems like it should be more like 4.5 or 5. So Yeah, I'm inclined to maybe put a small wager down on the Jets this week, but I am
Yeah, I
not
agree.
going
Five
to
and a
invest
half.
heavily. Yeah, I don't want to be heavily in on this game. I'll dip more of a toe in it than Freedman, but not much.
I will say, to follow up on Fitz's point, Kevin Stefanski is 1-11 against the spread versus division. Sorry, it's not division. No, it's wrong stat here. I'm looking at
Are you
7
just
and
making up
14.
things? Because I don't
7
like
and
when people
14.
make up stats on the show.
I
Joe
got
Flacco
it.
had 742 pass attempts. That is a fact.
I got it. That was. I'm looking at. I have so many things in my spreadsheet here. I've got the right one now. 7 and 14. Stefanski is 7 and 14 against the spread as a favorite in the regular season. So like this is a guy that you generally do want to bet against when he is laying points.
How dare you try to steal my bit of making up stats? How dare you? All right, let's go to Washington at Detroit. Detroit showed grit. I think we all could agree on that. Of course, they came up short because they're the Lions. That's typically what happens. But we have the Washington Commanders traveling to Detroit. They're coming off a win. Detroit's coming off a loss. Detroit is 1.5-point favorites in this one at home. Obviously, they're not giving Detroit a lot of respect, Matt. Do you think that that's wrong?
Yeah, I do. I'm a little bit angry at myself for not betting this beforehand because I do my projections beforehand on Saturday night and, kind of look at the look ahead market to see where there's value. And Washington was favored by 1 point on the look ahead line. And I had this projected as Detroit should be favored, like 1.5 or 1.25. And so I was thinking, but it's just across the one or just across zero. Like it doesn't matter all that much, even though you'd be getting a couple points of value. Of course, I didn't bet it, and then it flipped after. And so, I think this line is about where it should be. I think Detroit is a really good team, but I don't think there's any value here.
All right, Fitz, when you look at this one, I mean, what you saw out of that Detroit offense, I think, was incredibly encouraging. I think the Commanders played well, but it is the Jaguars after all. Maybe we're giving the Commanders too much credit here with this line.
Maybe, but like I'm not ready to anoint the Lions as like the upstart team in the NFL just yet. So to me, it seems like a pretty fair line. I'm more interested by the total of 46.5, which seems like it's a little inflated for a Commanders Lions game. Like if you told me before week 1 that you were going to get a 46.5 point total on Commanders Lions in week 2, I would have like slammed the under right there. So I'm still leaning that way. I know the Lions had a very nice, and I think they've done that 2 week ones in a row where they got down big and then like fought back furiously and piled up yardage and points like after they were down multiple scores. So yeah, like as well as their offense ran in week 1, I don't know that that's going to be a default setting every week for them.
All right, default setting for the Colts. They neither won nor lost. They had a tie, gross, against the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road. They are 4-point favorites in this one. The number is 45.5. Pat, when you're looking at this, does anything tempt you to get in on early?
Boy, if the Colts are going to look for motivation in this one, they had that brutal 26-11 loss to the Jaguars in the final week of the regular season last year. I have Jacksonville as like a 3-point underdog in this one, so maybe there's a little value on the Jaguars. But I mean, the Colts have got to be. Maybe they're just not good enough to, take advantage of a revenge game narrative. We certainly didn't expect them to lay the sort of egg they did in week 1. So, you could either go with the value with Jacksonville or the revenge game narrative with Indy. I'm apt to just stay away.
All right, do the Colts exercise the demons in a big way potentially this weekend, Matt, with this game?
I mean, the look ahead was 4.5. The early line that's been released is 4. I could see this moving towards 3. I'm on the. I don't know if I actually want to bet it, but I have this at 2.5, which means I probably should bet it if it's under the 3. Moving under the key number. If I'm betting it, it's Jacksonville. It's not Indianapolis.
I hope by the end of the show you listen to yourself one of these times because it feels like you've got a lot of confidence and then you just you don't make the wager. Come on, you've done the homework. Everybody knows. Nobody works harder than you. No. Tampa Bay Buccaneers came away with a victory in a kind of snooze of a contest. They will go and travel to New Orleans, which has historically not been their friend. Freedman, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just regardless, still favorites in this contest, 3-point favorites. The number is 45.5. I feel like that number of 45.5 might potentially grow over this week. What are your thoughts on this? Obviously, some injuries as well to take in from the Tampa side, both on offense and defense. But New Orleans has been really tough on the Bucs. Are we going to go live in the past, or is this a different season, different Saints team?
I think it's a similar enough of a Saints team. And I bet this beforehand, Saints +3 at DraftKings on the look ahead line, under the idea that I wouldn't think it would get any lower than that. And depending on how the teams played, it could go higher than that. So, I think it's a good situation here for the Saints. I have this, let me see where in my spreadsheet.
Well, while you're looking too, what's fascinating is if you do like the Saints, the money line is +136 right now.
Yeah.
That is a number to pay attention to, considering New Orleans has really stuck it to Tampa quite a bit over the last year or two.
Yeah, I have this at 2. I think, so it's close to it now. And so given where we are now, probably not that much value, but man, 4-1 against the spread, the Saints against Tom Brady with the Buccaneers. There's something about their defense. Like, they have the defensive line that can pressure. They have Marshawn Lattimore, who can take away Mike Evans, which means that they can use safety help to bracket the other wide receiver, which means that the Buccaneers basically have to be very good running the ball in order to have a sustainable offense. It's a tough matchup for the Saints. So I'm probably on the Buccaneers here, but at 2.5, which is the number that I'm seeing right now. I'm looking at the Betting Pros odds page. 2.5 is the consensus number. That's pretty close to where I think it should be. If it moved to 3, I would bet it. At 2.5, I want it.
All right, Pat, how about you? How do you see this Tampa Bay New Orleans situation working out? Something to get in early, or wait and see where it goes?
I think I'm going to get in early and take the Saints at this price. Like, I just, there aren't many things that bother the unflappable Tom Brady, but apparently Dennis Allen is the one guy who can get in his head.
And Steve Spagnuolo.
So, like, the Saints have a really tough defense, one of the better defensive backfields in the NFL, and they do have a pass rush, as Freedman was saying. So, and I think they have enough offense to be able to move the ball a little bit on the Buccaneers. Sorry, I'm locked in.
We're all shaking the dust off. I think
exactly.
We're all in a collective 3-hour sleep. That's okay.
But so we saw the Buccaneers struggle a little bit in the red zone against the Cowboys. So maybe their offense isn't firing on all cylinders anyway to open the season. I do think there's value here. Like, I think this is going to finish as a 1-score game, and in a close game like that, getting that many points, yeah, I'll take it in what could very well be a field goal game.
All right, the consensus right now for the New York Football Giants is they are 2.5-point favorites at home against Carolina. Carolina had certainly gotten back into that game yesterday. Fitz, when you're looking at this, the renewed Saquon Barkley, does that renew any faith in the Giants here with this line at home?
This is a total stay away for me, Joe.
Yeah.
And it's one, like, I actually was, hit the spread and was within half a point of the total when I tried to peg what this would be. So I just don't see any value here on anything.
Does this one scare you as well, Freedman?
It doesn't scare me, but I don't see any value in it. It scares me in that I think it will be pretty ugly, other than Saquon Barkley playing in this game, but I don't see any value either way on this.
Ugly enough to look at the under at 42.5?
Maybe, but both of these defenses are kind of bad. So you could see how the offenses are able to go for. I mean, 42 is a low number. So I'm just probably staying away from all of it.
That screams for outcome game to me, and I want nothing to do with it personally. New England Patriots take the L, take an injury to Mac Jones. This one right now, New England on the road, still 1-point favorites against Pittsburgh in the early consensus, but that could change, obviously, especially as we know health of other players like Najee Harris. Look, this is early, Matt, and I know there's a lot of injury stuff going on with both of these teams, TJ Watt having that injury as well. Is this something also there's just not enough information to make a good decision at this point?
No, I'm betting it.
Okay.
And I'm on Pittsburgh here. I like this position. I know that the TJ Watt is out, and that certainly that will impact the ability for the Steelers to generate a pass rush. But given that the Patriots are so reliant on the run game anyway, I don't know if that will actually factor into the game as much as it otherwise would. And Mike Tomlin, I like him in this spot. As an underdog, he's 46-23-2 against the spread. At home, 63-55-3 against the spread. And then you put that together as a home dog, 14-3-2 against the spread. Like, Tomlin should almost never be an underdog at home. Mm-hmm. And the Patriots, they look so lost offensively. Mm-hmm. And like, we have seen them, I mean, repeatedly, like for the past decade, start slower in the season as they are figuring out what they want to do offensively. And I think we're going to see them continue to struggle on offense. And it's not as if the Steelers have a great offense, but they have a defense that's good enough. And like, they've just got like a lot of grit. They got that dog in them, you know, like they're just the kind of team that seems to have the innate ability to drag their opponent down to their level and
That's
keep
fair.
games close. So I think there's value here. I think the Steelers should be favored.
Well, the money line is even here right now. So Pat, do you just ignore the spread and just go right for the Steelers to win outright?
Yeah, I think I probably will. I see the same thing Freedman sees on this one, Joe. Like, I'm just kind of baffled by the line and how Pittsburgh is a big dog. I think it's an enormous amount of respect for both Bill Belichick and for TJ Watt. That the line is where it is. But to me, yeah, the big factor is that the Matt Patricia orchestrated offense of the Patriots is a problem, which I was kind of thinking when Freedman was trying to give the Patriots as a pick in week 1 on the Betting Pro Sunday morning live stream. So I just kept my mouth shut. Maybe I shouldn't have. So, yeah, I think that is a huge issue. And plus, we've got the Mac Jones back injury. Yeah. So we don't even know if we're going to see him this week. That's going to be in flux. I wouldn't be surprised if this line yo-yoed maybe half a point either way during the week. But yeah, I'm betting the Steelers, just like a blind bet on Mike Tomlin as a home dog. Like, that's just too tempting to pass up.
Yeah, as a Patriots fan, I was betting on the Dolphins yesterday, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you guys are seeing with other people. So you want to talk about respect? How about this? Oh, this respect is deserved or not. 11-point favorites, Los Angeles Rams at home against the Falcons. Now, the Falcons, they showed a little bit of guts, but at the same time, you would think, okay, roster-wise, these two teams are not in the same universe, and maybe the Rams are going to take it out on the Falcons. Is that just it? But the problem is this 11 points is really a large number this early in the season. Pat, what do you think about this one?
The first thing that jumped out to me, Joe, is like, I think this shows an incredible level of respect for Buffalo, that the Rams came off that trouncing and just completely seemed to not affect the way they are regarded by Las Vegas. So, yeah, like, I don't know. The Falcons were scrappy. If I'm going to put something down in this game, it's probably going to be taking the points with the Falcons, but ultimately not a lot of value on this.
All right, Freedman, scrappy Falcons versus angry Rams. What do you see in this one?
Okay, this one really intrigues me. In the offseason, when sportsbooks released way too early look-ahead lines, this was 13.5. And then on Thursday, this line was 13. Last night, when this line was released, it was 11.5. And now it's 11. All right, not that much has really changed in how we should evaluate these teams. If this moves any lower, I'm taking the Rams. Happily taking the Rams. I think they should be around 12.5-point favorites. I have this at 12.25. And so not a ton of value right now because we're in between key numbers, but some value. And if this gets to 10.5, 10, there's no way this gets to 10 because everyone will just slam bet the Rams. But even if this gets to 10.5, I'm taking the Rams.
Okay. San Francisco 49ers are going to lick their wounds and go back and hopefully get some better weather in San Francisco. They are 8.5-point favorites over the Seahawks. The Seahawks are going to play tonight. Freeman, when you look ahead at this one, is this just as easy as just forget everything you saw from San Francisco in week 1 and just copy and paste what you thought about them going into the season?
A little bit, but not so much, because I still think within the circumstances, they could have looked better. Like you're in a perfect run game environment. That's the kind of environment in which the 49ers should thrive, and they didn't do nearly as well as I would have expected. And so I am a little bit skeptical on this team, especially because they are dealing with significant injuries on offense and in the secondary. I have this number at 9. It's at 8.5. I think it's about where it should be.
Same thing for you, Pat? Just feels about right.
Yeah, I mean, it does, and this is the line I projected, but I do sort of like the 49ers in a bounce back spot, getting the Seahawks in a short week. So it just seems like the spot sets up really well for the 49ers. Maybe I'll change my mind if Seattle looks, fantastic tonight, but I don't think any of us really expect that. Yeah, Freedman's like, come on, we're not into fairy tales on this show.
Nobody knows what to expect when the Dallas line comes back out. It was 2.5. Dallas was favored at home against the Bengals. If you had to guess right now with the Dak Prescott injury, what does this line look like now with the Bengals traveling to Dallas with Cooper Rush playing quarterback most likely, Pat?
Bengals -1.
That's it.
1.5.
But it might be a little more.
You think so?
Friedman's got some feels.
What do you think, Freedman?
No, I mean, I think that this line has moved. Like taking Dak Prescott out, and let's say Dak is top 12 comfortably.
Sure.
Maybe number 8, something like that. Cooper Rush is a below average backup. Like I think one of the worst backups in the league, or at least like a highly unproven backup. So I think the swing from Dak to Cooper Rush is maybe like 6 points, like 5 to 6 points for the Cowboys. Like if they had, I don't know, like if they had Teddy Bridgewater as their backup, it wouldn't be as big of a hit.
That's fair.
But this is, I think, a pretty significant hit here. And so I think Cincy should be favored by like 5.5.
Interesting. We'll keep an eye on that one. Obviously, keep listening and watching all the Betting Pros content to see how that one moves. How is this one going to move you, Freedman? Denver, 10.5-point favorites at home against the Houston Texans, who also showed some fight in them a little bit as well under Lovie Smith. Is this number too big, too small, or just right?
Yeah, I have this at 9.75. So I'm under the key number of 10, which means that even though, like I'm less than a point off, there is probably some value on the Texans, but man, I don't think I want to wade into those waters. I want to see what Denver looks like. That said, you know what? I should probably bet this now.
I was going to say,
I'm going to make a note.
Even struggles, maybe this line gets a little bit tighter. And does that really change anything? Because it's week 1 and everyone's kind of shaking the dust off. Sometimes we take a little too much out of week 1. Don't you think, Pat?
We definitely do, Joe. Yeah. And I think just in general, people are maybe giving the Broncos a little too much credit. I think they've instantly been anointed as like one of the top Super Bowl contenders in the AFC. And I don't know if they're there yet. Like Russ certainly improves their credibility, but I don't think they're quite on the level of the Chiefs, the Bills, maybe not even the Chargers. We'll see about that, I guess. But I'm with Freedman. Like I had this one at 10, and considering it's 10.5, like that key number kind of makes me interested in putting a little something on the Texans here.
Yeah, let's walk through just a little bit the scenarios of what happens tonight here, because if the Seahawks, let's focus on the Broncos. If the Broncos crush the Seahawks, I don't know if that changes this number at all. But if they underperform, you could move from like the 10.5, 10 that you see in the market to like 9.5, 10. In which, like, if that move happens, I think there's significant value. So probably best just to take this now if you like the Texans.
Fair enough. That's a good point right there. Let's move on to the next one here. The Arizona Cardinals woke up, but it was too late. The game was already over on week 1. And then the Las Vegas Raiders tried to compete, but kept giving the ball to the other team. That's never a good recipe for a win. So both of these teams start off winless. 3.5-point favorites. Vegas is at home. Freedman, when you're looking at this one, do you believe that this line is correct? Is this something to jump on early or something to wait?
Man, this one hurts. I don't want to bet it, but I have value on the Cardinals. I have this at 1.5. And maybe I'm not adjusting enough based on what we saw last week, but I also want to be cognizant and make sure not to overreact to what we saw. But, Zach Ertz wasn't his best. JJ Watt was out. Rondell Moore out. Traylon Mullen out. Maybe some of those guys come back next week, or I should say this week rather. But I have it at 1.5. So through the key number of 3. And, if I'm just betting my numbers, and that's probably what I should do if I want to have faith in them, I got to take the Cardinals here.
That's fascinating. This one I see very differently, Pat. I'd love for you to be the tiebreaker here because I feel like the Raiders should have been much better than they were. They kind of just handed moments away time and time again in that game against the Chargers. Look, Devontae Adams looked great. I worry about the secondary here a little bit at times with Arizona. Do you think that this may be a little bit too much credit that Freedman's giving to the Cardinals?
Well, so I don't know if this is right, Joe, but like my initial instinct was to come down on the Freedman side. Like when I first looked at these lines, week 2 lines on Saturday night before we had the data from Sunday, I had the Raiders as a 1-point favorite. And obviously, like the data for the Cardinals was not very positive, and like those, maybe I was downplaying the effect of those injuries because their pass defense just got chewed up. I mean, not having Watt, not having those cornerbacks. I mean, they just got shredded. But then again, they got shredded by maybe the best quarterback in the NFL,
fair, and
certainly the best play caller in the NFL. So I don't know if we're going to see quite that degree of. I don't know, the ability to pick that defense apart the way the Chiefs did. Yet, I don't know. Like Cliff Kingsbury is really shaking my confidence here, and I don't know if they're good enough to bounce back and have this like revenge game after the bad home loss to open the season. But I do think that, as Freedman mentioned, there's a key number involved here, and since my projection is below it, I'm probably going to take the Cardinals and live to regret it.
Yeah, one quick thing here. Just Derek Carr. Let me make sure I'm looking at the right cell in my spreadsheet this time. Derek Carr, 13-23-1 against the spread as a favorite. So this is like a guy who routinely underperforms when he's in a positive spot. And then on the flip side of that, Cliff Kingsbury is sort of like the yo-yo zigzag guy. Horrible as a favorite, very good as an underdog. 18-9-2 against the spread as an underdog in the regular season and the postseason. So like this feels like a bounce back Cardinals spot.
How many of those games did Derek Carr had Devontae Adams for?
0. Absolutely 0. Yeah.
Just want to throw that out there. I'm the Loki of fantasy. You know that in betting. I just like chaos. I like to throw those weird things out there. Let's go to something else. You want to talk about temperature check, Pat? We got to start with you. Now, Green Bay last year did not look good in the start of the season. Then they went on to rattle off 7 straight wins. So is this same old bad week 1, we'll shake off the dust of Aaron Rodgers, or is there a little bit of panic? Because the line's telling you right now this is 9.5. It's the same old deal, right? Aaron Rodgers just owns the Chicago Bears, right? What do you think about this one, Pat? What do you take out of what you saw yesterday or maybe didn't see from this offense? Because I think Aaron Rodgers saw a lot of purple. That's pretty much all he saw.
Yeah, I figured this was automatically going to be a double-digit spread, Joe. I was thinking like 11.5. But after what we saw yesterday, I understand 9.5. And I don't think there's necessarily value to betting the Packers after what we saw. Like the pass catchers were a problem. The offensive line was a problem. Rodgers did not get a lot of time to throw. Not having David Bakhtiari and Elgton Jenkins is a big deal, and it sounds like Bakhtiari at least is not going to be ready for week 2. So I do have concerns about the offense, and I don't think I can bet the Packers even at a much lower number than I was anticipating.
Freedman, this feels like the trap of all traps to me. I'm terrified. Talk me out of this one here because I don't want to put too much stock in the Bears winning a game on a slip and slide field, but certainly they got a lot of energy and momentum and something to prove. But I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers, right? Should we be shaken from what we saw yesterday as much as maybe that Aaron Rodgers was shaken up yesterday?
I don't think so. In the offseason, this number was 9.5. On the Thursday look ahead, it was 9.5, and it is still 9.5. I am betting it. I am betting it. I think this number should be 10. Before we got into week 1, I had this at 10.5. The Bears looked okay, but I think a lot of that had more to do with the circumstances. The Packers looked bad, no question about that, but they were missing a lot of players. Some of them are likely to return this week, and I think we should see some natural progression. Last year in week 1, they were absolutely horrible, and they bounced back. They still have Aaron Rodgers. They still have Matt LaFleur, who has 13 wins in 3 seasons in a row. I think they bounce back here. And by the way, the performance of Aaron Rodgers against the Bears, it's the stuff of legend. I probably don't need to go into it, but I will. 20-7 against the spread versus the Bears for his career. He literally does own the Bears.
That's pretty amazing.
I am on the Packers in this spot.
I'm not even going to be snarky and say, well, how many games did he have Devontae Adams? I'm not going to do that. I'm not even going to say that out loud. Let's go to the last 2 games. We got some more prime times here. We got Tennessee at Buffalo. Buffalo 9.5 point favorites. This feels about right to me, Freedman. How about you?
Yeah, I think this is absolutely right. I'm angry at myself because I had this at 9.5 before the game was played yesterday for Tennessee. And it was the difference between 7.5 and 9.5, it's really not that big of a difference because you're not moving through any key numbers. So I'll wait and see. And maybe Tennessee is awesome and this number gets to 7. And obviously that didn't happen. It's 9.5. It wouldn't surprise me if it gets to 10. I have it now after adjusting for this week. I have it at 10.25. So I think there's probably still some theoretical value on the other side of the 10 here at 9.5. So I could see betting it, but I'm probably, I don't know. I have to decide. If I'm betting it, I'm betting on the Bills.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe it's the point total, 49.5 for this game. Is that something you want to touch, Pat, or the 9.5, or neither?
Neither on the total, Joe, and I'm leaning toward neither on the side too. Fair. Because generally Tennessee is in the sort of spot where I want to bet them. Like a team coming off an embarrassing home loss. If it's a team that's not good enough to do anything about being angry after a loss like that, then maybe I'd stay away from them. But I think Tennessee is just good enough, or at least they have an above average coach with Mike Vrabel. So I would normally like them in a spot against a team that might be a little fat and happy after an impressive nationally televised victory. But what kind of cancels that out for me is the fact that now the Bills will have had 9 full days to prepare for this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm just even though I actually see a 0.5 point of value with the Bills, I'm just not going to touch this one. I'm a little conflicted on this game.
If they felt they were embarrassed on Sunday, wait till they get to Buffalo. The Minnesota Vikings against the Philadelphia Eagles. This one should be fun. 2.5 point favorites. The Eagles are in this one. As we look at the early line, the number's 49.5. This feels kind of like an over to me, Fitz. How do you see this one?
I had the total right at 48.5, but I had the spread at Eagles minus 4.5. I do think the Eagles are a better team. I'm going to bet them.
All right, Freeman, do you see this the same way? Eagles look strong in this one, especially offensively, but Minnesota Vikings certainly look pretty good as well. How do you sparse these two?
Yeah, this is interesting. So it's vacillated between 2.5 and 3, but seems to be settling on the 2.5 here. And I have it at 3.25. I do think the Eagles are the superior team. I don't want to discount what Minnesota did last week because it was impressive, but I think a certain amount of that had to do with just uncertainty and confusion with the Packers. And so I still think Philadelphia deserves to be 3-point favorites, at least 3-point favorites here. So I would be betting on the Eagles.
Okay, let's do a little rapid fire here. Matt and Pat's top 3 early wagers. Pat, why don't you kick things off here with your favorite 3 so far here on Monday morning?
All right. I might be crazy to do this, Joe, but the Jets. I'm going to take that value and take the 6.5 points with the Jets. Betting on Joe Flacco does not feel good at all. It never does, but I'm going to take them. nor does betting on Arizona. But now I feel even better about it. I didn't know that Cliff Kingsbury record is an underdog. So I'm going to take the Cardinals in a bounce back spot in Las Vegas. And last one, I might back down on this if we get some negative news about the injuries. But I'm going to take the Ravens at home against Miami with the 4.5 points. Lay the 4.
All right, Freedman, your top 3 early line picks.
All right, so KC -3.5, hosting the Chargers. I still think that this number should be 6. I think they're not quite at the level of the Buffalo Bills, but I think it's the Bills and the Chiefs in a tier unto themselves at the top of the league. And then Pittsburgh at home as 1.5 point underdogs against the Patriots. Your Patriots. Sorry, Joe.
Hey,
and
man,
then,
I was keeping it real. I told you. I thought the Dolphins were going to win. I'm all right. I'm fine. Everything's fine.
And then Green Bay at the numbers 9.5. I will definitely take that hosting Chicago.
There you have it. Now, if you want to see more consensus lines and go put some early money down, head over to bettingpros.com. Go check it out. The prop bet cheat sheet will be available as well pretty soon. It's available for Monday Night Football. Stay tuned to Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. We have the live streams before those in the afternoons. If you want to kind of start to target some of these primetime action, we're going to get there for you and help you with all of that as well at Betting Pros. And if you want to have a little bit more fun on the side, head over to sleeper.app/bettingpros and use the promo code bettingpros, because when you use that promo code bettingpros over at Sleeper and you're playing their new over-under game, you can get a $100 deposit match just for hanging out and starting to play with the promo code bettingpros. Again, that's at sleeper.app/bettingpros to get that done. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Matthew Freedman, Pat Fitzmaurice, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.